we can start. Thank you very much and welcome, Gabriela. It's good to have you here. Thank you very much. We also have Ken online and we've got the slides put up. This has been a really important topic for us, that there's coordination, especially when it comes to sustainability. We want to recognize the significant work and leadership that the two of you have taken to really drive this and make sure that there's alignment. There's also a really good document in our pack that explains how the definitions work between the two boards and the level of alignment and so on. So thank you for putting all of that together. I'm going to hand over to the two of you. I'm not sure which one of you will be talking to the, is it the Tom draw the short straw this time? Tom, over to you.
Like with everything, this is a joint effort. So I'll start, and Gabriela will finish. But throughout the whole project, both boards were committed to get into an interoperable and converged solutions, particularly on many of the topics that were in the public interest issues. And as we know, that the challenge is that the slightly different timetables of the two boards. So at least from the IAASB's perspective, we want to really thank IESBA for their accelerated consideration of these issues while they were in their first wave of consideration of the comments that they received. So it was really an unlocking issue. I may have sounded sanguine about these issues previously because I knew with a good process and goodwill and good proper intent that we would get to good conclusions. And I think that's where we got to on these 7 issues, where there were potentials or concerns about misalignment or not perfect alignment. And we put together a very structured process. And there had always been engagement between the two boards and the staff teams on a regular basis, the task forces, but it was the focused effort from June onwards that led to our joint board session and what you see in agenda item J1 that we submitted to you, that we revised, and you see it in track changes because there was one issue, one area for the purpose of clarity and simplification that we made further amendments to. So you see what the latest board thinking was on this. Since our last meeting, we had joint coordinations. There was a coordination meeting that Gabriela and I helped convene in London with the task force chairs of the staff teams, which really accelerated the movement. And then just the extraordinary efforts of the two teams and the task force chairs to get this done, which culminated, as I said, in our joint session, where I think we were able to say unequivocally that we are aligned. And so I think this is a real success for coordination. It's a success that in terms of the commitment that we show as boards to reaching converged outcomes. And I'm proud of where we are. So let me turn over to Gabriela about some of the learnings that we've experienced.
Thank you, Tom. First of all, good morning to all of you, and thank you for having us. And it's, again, a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to connect with the PIOB and understand what is keeping the PIOB awake at night and what should keep us awake at night. So thank you, Tom, for this introduction. Well, I think it's important, we think it's important, it would be important to summarize some of the learnings of this intense process of coordination over a very hot summer. And there are actually some lessons to be taken, and I think that the first one, even if it's not evident in this slide, is that for the future we will have to take care of these issues of coordination earlier on in the process. And I was listening to you, Linda, asking about coordination on technology. It's already happening because, as you know, IESBA already has some materials and etc. But I think that this is the most important takeaway and learning, that we will have to start earlier on, and when we start any project, we need to address any possible coordination needs from the start and not at the end of the process. This was challenging. As Tom said, I'm also proud of where we are now, and this is the result of a significant effort of the teams, the task forces, and the board as well, because they were asked over the summer to provide input and to react and etc. So this is the first and more important learning, but also that from the start we are clear about where we want to go, what are our common goals and our common purposes and outcomes. So this is not always an easy exercise, because we are not one and the same. We have different purposes, or the ultimate purpose is the same, but we cover different areas, have a different remit and mandate and etc. So common goals and common outcomes, it's not always easy to define, but I think this is something that for the future we will need to discuss upfront and as much as possible, and when possible, set these common goals and purposes. The fact that Tom and I were involved in this process was, I think, determinant, and I'm thinking, for instance, about the London meeting, the meeting that we had in London, where I think this was, it was important that we were there. Of course, the biggest piece of this cake, we owe it to the staff, which made an incredible effort, but of course there is a different perspective and a different high-level and strategic perspective that sometimes has to be provided. So for the future, we also learned that sometimes, not always, because otherwise we will be micromanaging our teams, but this strategic approach at the start and at the critical point of decisions is also important. But another lesson is that, and I really mean what I'm going to say, is that the very different or diversified perspectives of the two boards at the end mean significant richness to the final outcome. There were discussions, and I'm thinking about some discussions, for instance, that we had in London, where I think that we started in very different, with very different perspectives and starting points. And I was listening to Tom and Tom's team and understanding where they wanted to go. And I think that the same happened for Tom and the team. So these very different perspectives and approaches, of course, we can't say that we will end up by having the same approach and the same perspective, because we come from different points. But it's very, very enriching to understand far beyond the provision or the proposal, where do the teams and the leadership come from, what they want to achieve. And we are different at the start, but we managed to get much closer. So this was a real stress test, and this is in the slide. This was a real stress test for both boards, for the chairs as well, for the board. But I think that the result is very, it's a very good result, and it worked well under this stress test. We hope that in the future it will not be as stressful as it was this time, and this also this is why we need to take the learnings from this process, that the next time we will probably have to try to coordinate timings, time schedules, and again speak from the start and not at the end. Of course, there was a lot of time, energy, agility, etc., dedicated to this coordination project, and they were all not. Sometimes they are a little bit scarce. Time was for sure scarce, mostly for us, in the circumstances where the IESBA was by the time that this project was, this initiative was launched. Resources are what they are. I'm not going to speak about what you well know that we don't have, but also the agility, and this is also a learning for the future, that we need to work on the agility of the people, of the chairs, of the groups, teams, processes, and etc. And this is a learning process. This is not something that you can tell people and ourselves that you have to change from July 1 to July 2. It's a learning process. It's something that we will have to have up front and top of mind for the future, is that we need to be more agile and move forward from where we are, trying to understand the other's point of view and get to a point which is satisfactory for the public interest, for the stakeholders, and not for our egos and the esteem that we have for our own product and creation, which of course we want people to be proud of what we do, but we need to move away from that pride and make sure that what we deliver is the best for the public interest. So there was a lot of stakeholder requirements in this, in respect to this coordination. So we tried to understand where they were coming from. Some of these requests were more meaningful than others. There were some requests on coordination which was more, wow, you don't use the same words and things like that, which were not that substantial. There were others which could be substantial or were substantial. So we also made a big effort in trying to understand stakeholders' points of view and perspectives and move forward and come up with a product which satisfies the stakeholders' requests and concerns. So I think that there was a lot to learn. I'm happy that we reached the point that we reached and that we were able in September to come to a solution or a number of solutions which I think are very, very stable and respond to stakeholders' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you for that. Do you want to talk a little bit about, we've obviously seen the document, but just your sense of the outcomes, because that's obviously really important. It is very useful that you spend all the time, but where did all of this land? And if I can put the question differently, are there any potential problems that will still pop up with significant divergence between definitions that can create confusion? Are you comfortable with the outcomes that will address the concerns previously around this?
So I think one of the things we didn't mention is the area where we grappled the most, and I highlighted this in my comments, was all the work around groups. And we talked about having some practical guidance that would be shared between the two boards, like what are the decision path ends and what are the implications if you go in some circumstances. So both boards, we talked about it, that it would be an area where joint guidance could be helpful. Now, from our standpoint, things are locked down. Are committed to what's in this document. I think we've got an alignment on all these materials, so there's no risk. But going back to Gabriela's point about the diversity of views, where we landed on what you see in J1, where there's the changes, we got to a simpler solution too, which is probably helpful for the rest of the world. I think Janine's been our key protagonist, so keep on reminding us, like, make it simpler. And so I just saw a James Carville documentary, so maybe keep it simple, stupid was the right way to go about it. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that was an area where, working with IESBA, we got to a better solution.
And your standards approved, so I have to ask you, Gabriela, are you worried that there might be something that pops out where there could be a temptation to diverge from the agreed definitions?
Thank you for that question, Linda. I think that the response is no. I'm not saying that our project is final. It is not final. There are discussions still to be held with the board. There are some 2 or 3 remaining topics where we need to work a little bit. But I don't think, or I'm almost sure that, I'm sure that it won't impact the level of coordination that we reached. It's about our own business and our own materials and how we are going to deliver them. The board was fine with what we presented in terms of coordination. Janine was there. There were no questions. The question is more about the options, if there are any, not about the coordination results and outputs. So I think, I mean, it's October still, but I'm fully confident that there won't be any impactful changes.
Thank you very much. I've got a question from Tom, and I suspect then I can give you a slightly earlier coffee break. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Just I want to congratulate you for your effort for the coordination. And I totally agree with Gabriela in the sense that the earlier communication is very important, and earlier and high-level communication is very important. The one little bit specific question is that the relationship, one example might be the impact of a technology project and farm culture and governance. We often hear that through for example, the private equity investment, and at the same time we hear that from Tom that the IAASB would like to encourage the technology progress to be incorporated in the IESBA project. In that sense, through the private equity investment, might have some sort of impact on the farm culture and governance. How do you view, this is not in the press for the coordination, but this is one of the examples that the high level and early stage discussion between the two boards might be very helpful. So could you give us your view on, for example, this topic?
Thank you for the question, Tom. The answer is yes, and we are completely aware of that. And on the three topics that you mentioned, technology, farm culture and governance, and private equity investment. And we are so aware of that in an enlarged way that these are going to be the topics on the Stakeholder Advisory Council agenda. That we worked, and Tom and I were involved in the building of the agenda and etc. to make sure that this is approached as a topic. These are approached as topics which concern and have to do with both boards, and not as the IESBA project or Tom's project or whatever. So that idea of coordination, I don't know if it's coordination, but dialogue, joint reflection, early understanding of what's in these projects or matters for both boards and etc. is very, very present in our minds, top of mind, actually. On technology, as Tom mentioned, we are working, the teams are working together. Of course, we are in different stages and phases. We are not developing standards. We did it already. It's not, that doesn't mean that we won't do anything in addition, but not for the time being. So this is the status of the thing. Then on private equity, how it relates with technology, because there can be some apparent conflict between the need for the firms to invest in technology, but also the need for the firms to avoid situations where their independence can be seriously conflicted and threatened, and etc. Firm culture and governance, ISQM, and etc. So this is completely clear for us, and we are starting our conversations in that respect. And it will be very interesting to see what the SAC, the Stakeholder Advisory Council, will bring us, exactly because we want it to be addressed as a common concern or matter, and not Tom's concern or Gabriela's concern or whatever.
Thank you very much. Anything else from your side, Gabriela or Tom? Thank you, good. Then I just need to say thank you very much. It is very comforting for us. We were concerned about this before. We know you had lots of comments externally. There's been significant leadership from the two of you to lead from the front. As you say, there are certain inflection points where it's very important for you to get involved, and as for the rest, the staff and under the leadership of Ken and really take care of it. So well done, and very important, as you said, Gabriela, to continue on those other topics as well.